Hi everybody, welcome back to the Claremont Classic Garage. Here's a little funny thing that we picked up at the auction. We got this little lawn tractor for 30 bucks. Yeah, it's a $30 lawn tractor. The engine is in pieces, but mostly it's there. The main reason I bought this thing is when you see these old, it's an MTD. It was made by MTD. The brand is Landmark, which was sold by Home Hardware, but everybody sold these. I had one of these years and years ago. It was a Craftsman. And I'm telling you, this thing has stood the test of time. They're 6 or 7 speed, depending on the vintage. There's your forward, neutral, reverse in between your legs there. And this is the deck control. And I'm telling you, these things are bulletproof. They are indestructible. This is the best lawn tractor MTD ever made. Oh, I mean, they've made them for decades. They're so good, they just keep making them. So as time permits, we're going to putter around with this thing and see if we can get it going. I'll show you what I found on the engine so far. The first thing I notice is that the ignition is out of it, and there's jumper wires and all kinds of stuff, and the plug is hanging out of it. I kind of think that maybe she's suffering from no spark. Anyway, when we get around to messing with it, we will see if we could figure that out. If the engine turns, you know, and I don't hear like a bad connecting rod or anything like that. So one of the first things to do would be to get the starter going and see if she's got any compression. But we'll get at that when we get at it. Well, we're going to have a go at this thing now and see if we can figure out what's up with it. Like I said previously, when I see stuff like this and stuff like that, I'm pretty sure this is a no spark issue, not a blown up engine or something like that. But we're going to find out. What a beautiful day it is, eh? It's nice sunny afternoon. We got the Jays on the TV. And by the time you see this, it'll be over. But I'm mentally preparing for Game 4 of Leafs and Florida Panthers tonight. Things are looking pretty grim for my buds, but all we can do is believe. Anyway, let's get to work. So first thing I'm going to do is give her the old thumb compression test here. Oh yeah, it's got enough intake that it stops until I take my thumb off. And there we go, compression. All right, so we've determined it's got, the piston is going up and down. That's another good sign. So what we're going to do is, I'm going to unplug this too, because that's how these things turn off. You ground the ignition to turn them off, so we want to unhook that. Actually, maybe I will hook it up now, in case I electrocute myself. Because these things will give you a good jolt, these magnetos. This is probably, what is it, the yellow wire? That's the other end of it there. I don't know what these guys have been doing to this thing. Don't worry about it. What I'm going to do right now is I'm going to get some source of power and tickle the starter here and make sure the starter works and she rolls over. Then we'll maybe put the compression gauge in it and see if it's got any compression. We got the booster pack here. Let's see what happens. There you go. And you can hear it. Pop, 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 pop. So next thing we're going to do is get the compression gauge in there and see what it says. And on Deb's advisement, yes, I did check and make sure there's oil in it. So we got the compression gauge hooked up now. I'm going to wind it over and we'll see what happens. $70. It's not too bad. It's just this is a flathead. It's not an overhead valve one. It should have more than that, but considering it's been sitting and sitting and sitting, let's squirt some oil in it and see if that brings it up any. It's hard because it's a flathead to get the oil actually in the bore, but we'll see what we can do. Even at 70, with a little ether, we should be able to get her to go. Let's see here. Now we put some oil in it. We'll see what we get. Yeah, it came up to 80. Now I'm going to see if this thing's got any spark. So what we're going to do to eliminate any chance that this is being grounded out in this mess here, we're just going to unplug that. I can see the plug there. So I'm going to wind it over. Well, and we can see there she's got no spark at all. Before we get too carried away, the easiest thing is to try another spark plug. Okay, so let's see now if a different spark plug is going to help. Not at all. So what we can do here is just basic stuff. We could take the coil off and clean the ends of it. We could clean here. This here is the trigger. We could clean that all up and put it back on and set the gap and see if that helps it any. So here's our coil. I've cleaned this and I've cleaned up the trigger point here. And now we're just gonna, it's a magnet, so it sticks to it. So we're just gonna leave it stuck there for now and get the screws back in and snug them up just a tiny bit. And then we're gonna set this thing to 6 to 10 thou is pretty good. So we're going to use a brass feeler gauge. What do we got here? There's 6 thou. I'm probably going to go with 8 because this engine has got some miles on it and the crankshaft might move around a little bit. Just keeps creeping along, and that's why as a base runner, you can just time that as the pitch arrives at home plate. You know you're going to see some splitters from Gus. He gets the next one out the block and keep it right close to him, or it'll be a run. So we started off great with a ground out, the strikeout, but now Dawson's only thrown 20 pitches. There we go. So that's clean and the gap is set. We'll check it again for spark and see what happens. Failing that, we need a new coil. Well, let's see what happens now. Still no spark. So our coil here is kaput. Now we're checking the resistance across the ignition coil here, and it should be at least 5K and up into the mid 20s. This one is not even 1K. That means the winding in here is starting to short out, and the current is taking a shortcut through it, and it's not. There's just not enough of it to make a good spark. So we'll get a new coil, and we should be in good shape. Well, it has literally been 3 years since I started this video about this little tractor that we bought at the auction, I don't know, for 25 or 30 bucks. So back then we diagnosed that it needed an ignition coil because it had no spark. So since then I've managed to find one. So we're going to try and remember where all the screws are. I think they might be in the little tool holder in the back behind the seat. But anyway, we're going to go ahead and get the top of this thing off, see if we can find the hardware to put our new good used coil on, and we'll go from there. Okay, we got our new coil installed. And look at those nice little sparkies. Now before we start it, there's just a tiny bit of oil just on the very bottom of the stick. So we're going to put some oil in it. And then we'll put some fuel in it. I'm not too sure what we've got for a carburetor, but we'll all we can do is see. I put some gas in it, and it's not running all over the ground, and the oil is topped up, so all we can do is try and start the thing. Well, let's see what happens. I don't really have enough hands because I have to use the, well, we'll give it some throttle. We'll pull the choke. And we'll hit the starter and see what happens. Wow, look at that. She fired. Well, I don't like how it's backfiring through the carburetor like that. What we're going to do now is pull this stuff off the top and make sure that the key on the flywheel isn't sheared. It happens to these things sometimes. That could explain why it's backfiring through the carburetor. It's turning over. It seems to have compression. It just doesn't seem to be firing at the right time. So I just use a power steering puller and off it comes. So there you can see here the key is sheared away. Where'd that little piece go? There. That's it. That's all that's left of it. Here you can see here the stator. This is what charges the battery. There's the rest of it. Now this keyway is specifically made out of aluminum as so it's sacrificial. It's like a fuse. This flywheel is so heavy. These engines are used in all kinds of applications. And if this engine was going along at full song and all of a sudden it, through whatever, something getting jammed or whatever, it instantly stopped. Bang. That flywheel spinning has enough inertia that it could break stuff. It could, you know, twist the crankshaft. It could do a lot of damage. So what they do is they put that aluminum key in there so that if something like that happens, the key just shears and the day is saved. Also, probably it would protect you if you've got for whatever reason, a hydraulically locked cylinder. Maybe when you're trying to crank it, that would shear. I don't really know. Anyway, we're going to see what we can find around here. I don't think I've got an aluminum Briggs keyway, but I just looked. I can get them for I can get a set of 3 of them for like $6 on Amazon. So I might do that. Well, I'm going to do that, but for now I got to find something to stick in there to see if this thing runs. Okay, for now what was left of the key, I kind of turned it 90 degrees and belted it back down in there. Or 180 degrees, pardon me. And it's grabbing for now. So what we'll do, I'm going to go over to the computer, order a set of keys, and like I said, 3 keys for $6. That's not too bad. For now, I'm just going to stick this thing all back together, and we'll see if we can get it fired up. Alrighty, let's see what happens now. I'm hoping now this time it ought to go. You know, she ought to start. Oh, we give her some throttle. We give her some choke. Let's see what happens. Oh. Well, it's running, but not too good. I wonder if there's something wrong with our carburetor or the governor. See if we can get it started again. So here's a carburetor. I got it upside down in the vise. I took the bowl off. It's just held on with this. That's your high speed or your power screw, right? The float looks okay. You just kind of give it a shake. If it's full of gas, you'll feel it sloshing around in there. It is not. So we're going to drop... Oh, and I've already had this thing out and given it all a really nice clean out with compressed air. So now we're going to drop that back in there. Put the pin through. Okay. And what you're looking for is the float to be just kind of nice and level. It is. That's good. So now, put the bowl back on. Some of these bowls, you'll see have got a couple of little dents in them to hold the float pin in. This one does not. It can just go on any which way. And then there's a copper washer for seal. And then, come on. Okay, we'll tighten that down. Good. Now what we're going to do is run the high-speed screw down till it bottoms. Don't force it, it just touches like that. And then back 1.5 turns. 1, 2, 3 halves equals 1.5. Okay, same thing on the top. That's your idle mixture screw. So same thing. We bottomed it out and backed it out 1.5 turns. Oh, what's this here? Does this come out? No, that doesn't come out. That is probably just a core plug for something. I don't want to mess with that. Okay, so now we're going to make sure we've got a viable gasket. I don't know if it's still stuck to the engine. We'll make sure we've got a good gasket and we'll go put this thing back on. Okay, boys and girls. Let's see if it runs better this time. I put the carburetor back on, hooked up the line. There's nothing pouring out the bottom of it. So let's see what happens. Needs some choke to go. Well, there's a lot of oil burning off, but that's pretty good. I'll let it run till that oil burns off. It'll probably run out of gas first. We'll see. Well, now that I know it runs, what I got to do now is try and fix up the wiring so that it, number one, you can start it and shut it off with the key. And number two, we can get it charging. And we'll go from there. I did, off camera, put it in gear and let the clutch up. And it moved forward. And it moved backwards. So the drive is okay. We just got to keep puttering with it. So wouldn't you know, in my collection of junk, I actually found a couple of Briggs and Stratton flywheel keys. So I'm going to pull this thing back off. We'll stick this in there. And then we'll button up the top of the engine. I'm pretty sure I've got the wires all in the right cavities on this. And we got the switch screwed back to the dash. We had to make a new nut. No worries there. Now moving down the line, I tested our starter solenoid. It's dead. So we've got this one here that I know it's a good working one. We'll swap that one in. And it's kind of a heavy duty one. I don't think we'll have any trouble with it. There we go. The solenoid is installed and all the connections are made. And we've got our battery cable, our hot battery cable going back to the battery compartment. And this one up to the starter. So theoretically now, if I hook up my jumper box to the chassis here, and that cable under here, I should be able to at least turn the ignition switch and hear the solenoid click. Operator on the seat, deck turned off, foot on the clutch. We should hear the solenoid click. And we do not. Okay, I'll work on that. So here's the next thing I found out. This is the wrong ignition switch. It was doing crazy things. It was, as soon as I hooked up the battery, it would start cranking and you couldn't turn it off. You couldn't turn it on. It wouldn't do anything. So I got looking, and yeah, even though it looks like the right one, like the terminals are in the right orientation, they do different things. This is not the right switch. So I'm going to order the right switch, and we'll go from there. Now I'm going to put the cowling back on the engine. I kind of wonder if that's going to help with the governor, because it relies on airflow on the little fan to control it. I believe that's how this one is. Anyway, we'll put this back on. There's no need for it to be off anymore. We've got everything in here sorted out. Well, let's see what happens. Got our new ignition switch in. I figured out that, yeah, guessing where the wires went back into the plug on the back of it was a mistake. So anyway, I finally found a schematic on this actual switch, and I'm pretty sure we've got it wired up correctly. Now, we're just using our booster pack to try and start this thing up, and well, we'll see what happens. Give her some push the brake. I think you have to push the brake to start this, and let's see if it'll even crank. Nope. Something not right here. Hang on. So we can see here that the ignition switch is working. And now this orange wire goes down through a bunch of safety switches. I have to check all those on its way back here to the solenoid. So let's just double check here. I haven't got enough fingers. Hang on, I need a jumper wire. Oh! Now it's decided. Okay, she's going. Hang on. Huh. Hang on. Let me get back on the seat. And there we go. It started right up. Okay, now hopefully it'll shut off. All right. Success. So what we have to do now is get an actual battery in this thing and start putting it all back together. But I think that'll be on the next video, because we've got quite a few things to fix other than what we've fixed already. So there we have it. We have our lawn tractor that we bought dead at the auction. Now at least you can turn the key and it starts. Well, that'll do it for this one. We've still got quite a bit to do to make this thing a functioning lawnmower, but hey, for now it starts up and it turns off. Anyway, I'm going to take off now. I'd like to thank you for tuning into the Claremont Classic Garage. I hope you will come back soon and see what we're up to next. And until then, I'm Kevin saying so long for now.